Virgo. What you did, what you showed them, what you proved through your actions, it shifted their entire internal world, and they're not just thinking about you casually anymore. They're planning, they're building scenario in their mind where future includes you permanently. This isn't passing fantasy. This is them organizing their life around possibility of you. Listen, because what you triggered in them is changing how they move through everything. What you did is acknowledgement that specific action or behavior or choice created reaction in them, not vague feeling, not general attraction. Specific response to something you demonstrated, something you revealed, something you proved through concrete action that made them realize something fundamental about you, about what you offer, about what you make possible. Actions speak differently than words. Words can be performed, words can be manipulated, words can be lies dressed up as truth. But actions reveal intention, reveal character, reveal who someone actually is when nobody's watching, when no reward is attached, when showing up costs something and you showed up anyway. You did that. Whatever specific thing you did, you showed them something that words never could have communicated. You showed them you're trustworthy through trust you placed in them. You showed them you're reliable through consistency. You showed them you're worth planning for through how you show up, how you treat them, how you value the connection between you and their planning now. Not hypothetically thinking about future, planning it, building it in their mind, organizing their life around it, making choices now that align with future that includes you in it permanently. This is different than hope. Hope is passive, is wishing for something to happen. Planning is active, is them taking concrete steps, making concrete decisions, organizing their actual life around possibility that you're in it. Planning means they're thinking about 5 years from now with you, 10 years, rest of their life. Let me show you what kind of planning they're doing and what it means about how deeply you've affected them. First level of planning, logistical. They're thinking about where they'd live if you were in their life, what career moves they'd make if they needed to be near you or if you needed them to be in certain place, what changes they'd make to their lifestyle, their schedule, their priorities to accommodate you in their life permanently. This isn't abstract. This is them actually calculating, actually thinking through if we were together long term, what would need to be different about how I operate. And the answer they're coming to is substantial changes, changes that matter, changes that would require commitment. They're thinking about merging lives, about creating life together, about what that would look like in practical terms, location, career, finances, living situation, all the boring practical stuff that most people gloss over when they're falling in love, but that actually matters for sustainability. The fact that they're thinking through this practically means they're not thinking of you as fantasy, they're thinking of you as actual possibility, are actually asking themselves, can I build a life with this person? And the answer they're getting is yes. Yes, they can. Yes, they want to. Second level of planning, emotional. They're thinking about what kind of partner they'd need to be to deserve you, what work they'd need to do on themselves, what patterns they'd need to break, what emotional capacity they'd need to develop. They're looking at themselves honestly and thinking, am I capable of being what this person deserves? And they're either deciding they're not and they need to become that person, or they're already deciding, yes, I can be that person for them. This kind of planning is vulnerable, is them examining themselves through lens of what you inspire in them, is them deciding that being worthy of you is worth the work. They're thinking about how they'd show up in relationship. They're thinking about promises they'd make. They're thinking about commitment level they'd be willing to offer. And all of that is positive. All of that is them deciding, yes, this is person I want to build with. Third level of planning, dream based. They're building fantasy of future with you, not in escapist way, in grounded way, what marriage with you would look like, what children with you would look like, what growing old with you would look like. They're imagining family vacations, Sunday mornings, difficult conversations, celebrations, quiet moments. They're imagining full life, not just romantic moments. Are imagining actual partnership with all its boring, mundane reality. And in those imaginings, you're not fantasy. You're actual person they're building around. They're building with you as concrete feature, not as hypothetical option. Fourth level of planning, identity based. They're thinking about who they become if you're in their life. Are they a better person? Are they more of who they want to be? Are you inspiring them toward growth, or are you just confirming them in patterns they're already in? And answer they're getting is that you make them better. You inspire them. You make them want to be more. You make them believe they can be more. This is powerful motivator. This is someone saying, this person makes me want to be my best self. This person draws out who I actually want to be. And that's worth planning around. That's worth organizing life around. This reflection invites you to consider, what specific thing you did do you think triggered this planning in them? Now, let me address what this planning reveals about their emotional state and their investment. First, they're invested more than they've probably told you. People don't plan futures with people they're casually interested in. People don't organize their lives around casual connections. This planning reveals depth of feeling they might not have articulated, but that absolutely exists. They're thinking about you when they make decisions. Your possible reaction is factor they consider. Whether decision aligns with potential future with you is something they weigh. This is person who's mentally committed before you've even discussed actual commitment. Second, they're afraid. People who plan futures are risking something. They're risking hope being disappointed. They're risking investing in vision of future that might not come true. They're risking their heart on possibility that you feel what they feel. And they're scared you don't, scared you're not planning futures with them, scared that your actions that triggered their planning weren't meant as signals of future, but were just you being yourself, and they've read into them something that isn't there. This fear is probably keeping them silent about their planning, are probably not telling you about the futures they're imagining because telling you feels risky, feels like exposing themselves, feels like putting their heart on table. Third, they're testing, not consciously maybe, but they're watching you, watching to see if you're moving toward them or away from them, watching to see if your actions suggest you want future too, watching to see if signals you're sending are signals that future is possible. Every interaction becomes data point. Every moment you spend together is either confirmation that future is building or is uncertainty that makes planning feel risky. They're trying to read whether you're reciprocating their future vision or whether they're building alone. Fourth, they're committed. Maybe not officially, maybe not explicitly, but internally they're committed. They've decided you're worth planning for. They've decided future with you is what they want. They've decided building with you is goal. They're organizing around this commitment might be premature, might be based on limited information, might be idealistic instead of realistic, but it's real to them. It's shaping their choices. It's creating lens through which they view possibilities. This reflection invites you to consider, do you sense their planning? And does their planning create comfort or does it create pressure? Now, let me address what you should know about being the object of someone's future planning. First, you have power you might not have realized. The things you do, the ways you show up, the consistency you demonstrate these things are being interpreted as evidence that future is possible. Every action you take is being weighed for what it means about potential future. This doesn't mean you need to perform, doesn't mean you need to be different, doesn't mean you need to confirm their planning or accelerate it, but it means understanding that your behavior matters to them in ways that go beyond immediate moment, that go into their imagining of what's possible. Second, you have responsibility to be honest about your own feelings and intentions. If you're planning future with them too, if you feel what they feel, if their vision aligns with yours, that's information they need. That's information that would transform their planning from hopeful imaginings into actual collaborative building. If you're not planning future with them, if their vision doesn't align with yours, if you're not feeling what they feel, they need that information too. Kindly, clearly, before they invest more, before they commit more deeply, before their planning becomes harder to release when reality doesn't match. You're not responsible for their planning, but you are responsible for honesty about whether their planning includes you accurately or whether they're building fantasy. Third, you have option to join their planning or to decline it. If you want future with them, if what they're planning appeals to you, you can move into that space, can start planning alongside them, can let your planning merge with theirs. But joining their planning is choice, is active decision, is you saying yes to future instead of just allowing them to imagine yes. Make sure it's yes you want to give before you give it. And if you don't want that future, if their planning is beautiful but not your future, you can decline without being cruel. I care about you and I'm honored by what I sense you're imagining. And I'm not in place where I can plan that future. I need to be honest about that. So you're not building on false foundation. Fourth, understand that their planning might be rooted in who they think you are rather than who you actually are. They might be in love with version of you that's more perfect than actual you. They might be projecting qualities onto you that you don't possess. They might be planning around fantasy version. This is their work to do. They need to see you clearly, need to test their vision against actual reality of who you are, need to decide if they still want to plan when that vision gets more grounded, more realistic, more actual. You can help with this by being authentically yourself, by not performing, by showing them your whole self, your struggles, your flaws, your realities. The more real you are, the more grounded their planning becomes. This reflection invites you to consider, do you know whether their planning is grounded in actual you or in fantasy version of you? Let me address what happens next if you're reciprocating their planning or if you're not. If you're reciprocating, you get to build something conscious. Instead of one person planning secretly while other person moves unconsciously through life, you both get to actively build. You get to merge visions. You get to create something together instead of one person creating alone. This is beautiful if both people want it. This is love expressed through active commitment, through concrete planning, through both people saying, yes, I want this future too. But move slowly. Don't rush into future planning just because they're planning. Make sure your planning is authentic, that your yes is real yes, that you're committing because you want to, not because they want to. If you're not reciprocating, you need to address it. Not today necessarily, not before you've had time to sit with it, but eventually you need to address it because their planning is creating expectation, is creating narrative, is creating story they're telling themselves about future. And if that story isn't true, if future they're planning isn't future you want, they need to know so they can grieve and move on instead of spending months or years building on foundation that's not actually there. The conversation could go, I sense you're imagining future with me. I've been thinking about what I want, and I want to be honest about where I am. I care about you, and I'm not sure about forever. I need us to be real about what's possible versus what's fantasy. This is hard conversation, but it's kinder than letting them plan without knowing you're not planning the same thing. What you did got them planning. Your actions sparked possibility in them. Your character showed them something worth building toward. Now they're organizing their life around that possibility. Now they're imagining futures. Now they're committed internally to something that might not be mutual. You get to decide what happens next. You get to decide whether you join their planning or whether you redirect it. You get to decide whether this future is actually future you want. Choose consciously, choose honestly, choose in alignment with your actual desires, not with what you think you should want. Their planning is real. Your response to it matters. Make it matter in ways that serve both of you.